Usually the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about the Far Cry series are the crazy weapons or the freedom you have when it comes to just how you want to tackle a situation, and the menacing, suspenseful, and horrific villains the series has brought to life. And one of the last things that comes to my mind when I think about the Far Cry series are cavemen. And this brings up a really cool elevator pitch. What if you mix them? And that's exactly what we get with Far Cry Primal. Now this interested me, so I did some research and I found the reviews for Far Cry Primal are either, I love this game so much I would kiss a woolly mammoth on the mouth, or I hate this game so much it's so bad I hate Far Cry now. So now I was even more interested. What is Far Cry Primal? Is it really that good? Is it really that bad? What is it? And here we are. What is Far Cry Primal? So this video will be similar to my last one on Elden Ring. Go check it out because you're missing out, man. But basically, there are going to be some chapters in this video. Each chapter will focus on a different topic. Also, the topics will get progressively more positive toward the game. Alright, now let's jump in. Wow. Now yes, I know, bad way to start a supposedly non-biased video, but Far Cry Primal was kinda boring. The Far Cry series is known for its crazy and interesting take on first-person shooters. Stories aside, the games are iconic. The crazy weapons and freedom you have when it comes to most parts of the game goes beyond other games and franchises' dreams. Far Cry Primal, from the concept itself, dumps most of that, as set in a Primal Age environment doesn't have much room for classic Far Cry weaponry. But hey, maybe it's possible we just haven't found a caveman fossil holding a bazooka yet. Just saying, just saying. Now Far Cry Primal does make up for this lack in many other fields in the game, but we'll get there in a second. But the world just isn't as exciting and as interesting as the other Far Cry games in the same sense. And now of course you don't see pagan men riding a lot of woolly mammoths, and Anton Castillo doesn't usually have saber-toothed tigers running around, so Primal definitely has a different set of possibilities and aspects and assets to work with. This can be good and bad. While Michael Mando gave a chilling and suspenseful performance as Far Cry 3's Vass, never giving you a single moment to rest around him as you never know when he's gonna snap, a lot was expected from the future Far Cry games, and to say they didn't deliver would be up to you. Far Cry Primal's villain, on the other hand, just doesn't hit the same. While the character design of, jeez, that's a weird name. Bear with me, okay. Ull? The character design of Ull definitely creates that menacing part of the Far Cry games. That's about all we get. He's no Joseph Seed or Pagan Min, which is a real letdown to a lot of people. Far Cry is known almost infamously for its villains, and to have Ull just walk up and give the Far Cry fans a big caveman breath in the face wasn't the most pleasing of things. Now I know that Ull isn't the only villain, Batari is one as well, but once again, she wasn't able to fully grasp what makes a Far Cry villain great. They both touched on it, but weren't able to give off the same energy, if that makes sense. I can make a whole video on why Far Cry villains are iconic, but rest assured that these guys didn't reach the same level. Now, we all kinda knew this one was coming sooner or later. Now, right off the bat, I'll get this straight. The combat in Far Cry Primal is not bad, okay? But once again, and this will echo throughout the video, it just doesn't fulfill what people are expecting from a Far Cry game. The concept of Primal, it being set in a primal environment, cuts out most of that crazy weapons and stuff we get in the other games. They make up for this with taming animals, but I'll get to that in a second. The combat is just kinda limited and super simple in Primal, especially compared to the other games. Now, something that the Far Cry games struggle with is creating a good protagonist, or good guy, so to say. While they have the villains down, the main characters, or you, is something that's slightly harder. While the games handle their protagonists to varying degrees of success, Primal's good guy is really elusive, and not in a good way. I get that the character or characters you play as are hard to get attached to because of the first-person aspect of the game, but it's not the main problem, okay? Takar, Primal's protagonist, is really hard to get attached to. He just kinda comes off as a guy. Like, a guy. The only way you even get to see his face or your face in the game is a menu. That's like, yikes, not good. I understand the other Far Cry games have some problems with this too, but to varying degrees. Primal could be considered a critical degree. Open world games are looked at on the outside as fun, exciting, and vast, and so full of freedom. And though they are all of these things and more, open world games struggle with a set of crucial problems. Games with large maps struggle with this too. You lose sight of what you need to be doing. Skyrim is a legendary game that achieves something that very few games out there have, the perfect ratio. And even through that, I still don't even know what to do or how to do it when it comes to the story. I get so lost in the woods. Open world games might have an awesome story, but a lot of that is lost when there's just so much out there, and to say that Primal didn't suffer from this would be a lie. While the story of Far Cry Primal, Tribes at War, is interesting and isn't handled poorly in any way, the open world, the massive map, they all take away from it, whereas the story is only one of the many things that pop up into your head when you think about Primal. So have you ever come home from school and put down all your homework and really just looked at it, and then you slowly exhale and realize there's just so much? Okay, stop getting stressed out, Melina will cheer you up. That's kind of what Far Cry Primal is like. In a sense, it's a good thing when a game has so much for you to upgrade, find, equip, research, fight, you get the point. But there's also some negatives when it comes to having just so much stuff to do. The research trees, or upgrade trees, or whatever you're gonna call them. There are just so many. You get lost in upgrading this to upgrade that, to hope to upgrade that, to see your dog upgrade that, to upgrade to upgrading upgrades. God, that took a lot of take. There's just so much, and there's a point where there's too much. Now, of course, different styles and kinds of games have varying amounts of too much, but you get what I'm saying. Now, I had talked a lot about how Far Cry Primal's combat was lacking, and how the game in general was boring. But there are ways that the game sets itself apart from not only the other Far Cry games definitely, but other games in general. The animal taming system has its ups and its downs. Animals play a big role in Far Cry Primal. Now, Takar, or you, has a special gift. He can tame animals. Now, it is kinda goofy how he does it. I mean, he just walks over to a badger and just calms it down for like 3 seconds. That's taming it. And it's the same way, same amount of time for a bear or a saber-toothed tiger. Kinda goofy, but it's made up for by the fact that when you do tame these animals, you gain their abilities. The eagle can act as a bird's eye scout. The other more deadly animals can be more deadly, and the badger just kind of scares off anything that it looks at. Now, I'm not even joking there. Woolly mammoths will turn tails and bail out so fast at the sight of a badger that you won't even see them standing there in the first place. So you do get some of the charm and the silly stuff that the Far Cry games like to put in there. The world of Primal is unique, especially compared to the other Far Cry games. While they definitely cut out a lot when it comes to possibilities for the game when they chose the Primal Age, they also get set up with several new possibilities, with beautiful landscapes and environments, and massive animals, prey and predator roam these meadows, giving us a glimpse to what this time would have looked like, and it's all only enhanced by the graphics. And for the final section of the video, the execution. Now, it might sound like I've been hating on the game and how it's terrible and boring, but trust me, Far Cry Primal is almost executed perfectly. The way they took what they had and made it work. The opening scene is talked about a lot. I'll try to go over it quickly, but it's still so important. The opening to pretty much everything is vital, and Far Cry Primal nailed it. You start out not knowing anything about what's going on, but the tension is immediately built as you and a few other of your tribe are sneaking up on a massive woolly mammoth. You're instantly tied in. You're invested. What's gonna happen? The people in this game speak a different language, adding a sense of realism, as the game really is set back then. We can talk about how the game is boring compared to Far Cry 4, or it's lame compared to Far Cry 6, but on its own, it's an amazing game. It's well handled pretty much all around. No game is perfect, of course, but Far Cry Primal is an amazing game. It's just not Far Cry. When you compare this game to the iconic Far Cry 3 or the legendary iconic 4, of course it will fail. Most people will say that most games will fail in that situation. But when you look at it for what it is instead of what it should be or what it's supposed to be, then you get a great game. So what is Far Cry Primal? Far Cry Primal is a first-person Belware that puts you in an immersive take on the Primal Age. It's a great game. It's just not a Far Cry game in the same sense that the others are. Now, of course, this is all great, but it's no Elden Ring. Elden Ring is the greatest game ever created. Greatest game of all time. I have given my life, my allegiance to Elden Ring. So what are your thoughts? Far Cry Primal is a great game by all means. It might be lacking on some parts and aspects, but it's well handled and it's a great game. It's just not a Far Cry in the same way the others are. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon with another. I'm open for suggestions. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and remember, life is short. Play great games. About a week ago, I got a comment on one of my community posts recommending that I make a video on a game I enjoy. Now this stood out to me. I had never been asked to do something like this, and I was excited. And then about 3 seconds later, I realized I don't play many video games, which is weird for a guy who talks about them on YouTube, I know. But I was determined to make this video. Then, a few days later, I realized something else. I can make a video on my favorite video game, Elden Ring. Sounds obvious, I know, but it took me a week to think about that. So